everyone.
Hi guys.
Hi. I'm Ellen.
I'm Shani.
Welcome to our live video coming from our new clinic in Mooloolaba. We might show you a tour of it in a minute when I can flip the camera around.
Yeah.
Today we will be talking to you guys a little bit about whole foods and nutrition. Because we're just starting to launch a specific nutrition consult for our clients. So this will entail looking at optimizing foods that you're eating in your everyday life. That's kind of a little bit separate to things that we're doing in the consult with people. So I feel like as naturopaths, we work a lot on correcting imbalances and, fixing hormones and healing the gut and doing everything like that. But something that we really want to also start focusing more on in the clinic is optimizing people's diets and being able to focus more on that long-term maintenance of certain things. That's what you're thinking, Shani?
Yeah.
Cool.
So we focus quite a lot on actually getting people well, which means that you will generally need to be following a specific diet to get you there. But one of the things that we take for granted a lot being naturopaths is the knowledge that we have around diets and how food can keep our health optimal once we get to that place of optimal health and well-being.
So we'll start by talking a little bit about balancing your plate and kind of how we look at it as naturopaths and what we recommend to patients when we are talking about general eating whole foods. So how I explain it, you give me your input as well, Shani. I like to look at it as a little peace sign on your plate. So this is when we're balancing out what's happening with your proteins, your fats, and your carbs. So we'll talk a little bit in a minute about what all of those things are really important for. But I balance it out like a little peace sign. So you want good amounts of protein, good amounts of fat, and then the smaller part down the bottom, the little triangle, to be the carbs. Is that what you say as well?
Yep.
Yeah,
Spot
cool.
on. Yeah.
So the carbohydrates is something that gives you the most energy out of the three, but it drops off the fastest. So this is why we like to keep that to the smaller little part of the peace sign and mainly coming from fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
Is that what you say as well?
Yeah. So in terms of looking at carbohydrates, what we really need to understand is that this is where a lot of our micronutrients are coming from. So when we look at our diets, what we have to understand is that we do have our fat, our protein, and our carbohydrate, as Ellen just mentioned. And our carbohydrates is typically coming from most of our fruits and vegetables, as well as things like grains and those kind of starchier foods, which we want to keep to a minimum because typically they don't contain a lot of those micronutrients, but this is where all of our fruit and veggies come in. So going for the most amount of green as we can, because we know that green means nature, green means health, green means optimal. So by actually going for all of those amazing green leafy veggies and our broccolis and all of those beautiful things, this is where we're going to get an abundance of those nutrients.
So all of things like your vitamin C, your B vitamins, your magnesium, you can get iron like we spoke about last week as well. So when we're looking at carbs, it needs to really be balanced out with those proteins and fats. So after the carbohydrates comes your protein, and your protein is the one that gives you good amounts of energy and it lasts for a good amount of time as well. So that's sustaining you for longer than what just plain carbs would. So protein you can get from
meat, dairy, legumes, nuts, seeds, and grains.
Cool. And with the protein, that's something that is working a lot on your neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters, things like serotonin, dopamine, GABA, melatonin, lots of other things as well, but that's literally where you make those neurotransmitters is from the proteins in your diet. And that's something that we explain a lot and talk a lot about at our workshops that we do. So Shani runs our everyday whole foods workshops once a month, and we'll be doing our next one on the 25th.
Yes, that's right.
And we're having that at our new Mooloolaba clinic here, because if you've been to our Budrum clinic before, it is tiny and no room for more than 12 people at a time. Whereas here we have a nice big room open for the workshops that we're going to start utilising, which will be super amazing.
Exactly.
So back onto the protein.
On that note, talking about the protein, Ellen, one of the biggest things that we need to understand is that protein is broken down to become what are called amino acids. Now, amino acids is something we talk about a lot in clinic. Basically, these are the building blocks for everything in our body. So if we don't have enough protein, and we can actually work out exactly how much protein you need, if we don't have the correct amounts, we can't basically have these amino acids to do all of these jobs that need to be done in our body. So this is anything from producing hormones to producing those neurotransmitters to being able to have healthy DNA. We really need to have the right levels of protein to be able to do that.
So if you've ever looked at the back of, say, a protein powder supplement that you might have, that's where you can see the breakdown of all of the amino acids. And when you're looking for a good protein powder, you need to make sure that it has a complete set of amino acids. So you can get that in whey protein, but we generally like to opt for more of the plant-based protein, so coming from rice or pea protein with the complete amino acid profile. So that way you're getting all of those different kinds of pathways firing with your neurotransmitters and making all of those hormone pathways work a lot better.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And one of the things that I see quite frequently in clinic, especially when we're looking at something like any kind of mental health imbalance, whether it be anxiety or depression or even issues with sleep or insomnia, is that we don't have the correct levels of protein to be able to do all of those things that need to be done. So vegetarian diet is one of the things that you need to know how to correctly combine your protein, basically, to get that essential amino acid profile that we need. So quite frequently, one of my first questions to my patients is, are you vegetarian? And if you are, fantastic, but we just need to make sure that you do know how to correctly get the right amount of protein and those essential amino acids that our body requires.
Cool. The next part of your plate, so in the other portion of the peace sign, I should have drawn something. So in the other portion of the large bit of the peace sign is the fat component. So this is probably the section where I find people can be the hardest for them to fill up that section of the plate, because you kind of just think of fats. A lot of people think of fats as bad. That can be the number one thing that people say to me when I tell them that massive portion has to be fats. But your fats is what makes so many things in your body, including a lot of your hormones. Well, all of your hormones.
Yeah.
So with things that, fats are contained in things like fish,
nuts and seeds have got beautiful fats in them,
avocado, oils, good quality oils, really important. So with fats, that's something, going back to how long it sustains you for, is that fats are on the lower side of the actual energy content, but it lasts for the longest, so it's sustaining you for longer. So in comparison to someone snacking on a little rice crusket compared to snacking on rice crusket with a big portion of avocado and some pumpkin seeds on top of it, that's going to keep you full for way longer.
Exactly. And sustain those blood sugar levels as well, so that we're not feeling as irritable and moody and hangry as most of us have experienced at some point.
Or even feeling sleepy as well. We were just talking about it before we had lunch, and one of the ladies said, "Oh, I normally just feel like sleeping after my lunch," whereas one of the little boys who was in the room was running around doing laps around the table because of that massive spike in the blood sugars. But it really just depends on how your body reacts to those things as well. Do you have anything else to add on fats?
Another important thing to note about fats, as we mentioned before, carbohydrates, so particularly looking at our fruits and our vegetables, is where we're getting a lot of those micronutrients, so all of our amazing minerals and vitamins. However, one thing we need to understand is that our fat-soluble vitamins, so particularly looking at vitamin A, D, E, and K, is that these are actually coming from fats. They are fat-soluble, meaning that they need fat to transport them. So if we're actually missing a lot of those full fats, and all of the low-fat foods are really things we want to avoid, because when they remove the fat, they have to replace it with something. And typically that something is going to be carbohydrate and sugars, and we kind of talked already about how we want to try and reduce that as much as possible. So going for something like butter, for example, it is so incredibly nutritious if we get a good quality and a good brand. We are really lucky here in Australia in that a lot of our butters generally are coming from pasture-raised cows, meaning that they're grass-fed, meaning there's more nutrients in there as well. So a good quality butter means we're getting some of those amazing fat-soluble vitamins that our body really does require.
Amazing. I love butter.
Me too. Butter is incredible. Yeah.
So when we're looking at whole foods, this is something, so the reason why we're talking about this today, if you've just logged on, hi Tabitha, is that we are running a everyday whole foods workshop coming up at the end of the month with beautiful Shani, and we're also starting some nutrition consults just to be more regular for our clients, to work on more optimal health and optimal nutrition, rather than us just saying this is what you need to do for your hormones, or this is what you need to do for your gut work. We're looking at more holistic approach and looking at the whole person, helping more with those kinds of everyday foods that we need to be focusing on, that's just so important and can make such a really big difference to your life. Sounds good.
Yeah. So I really hope to see you guys at one of our everyday whole foods workshops. We are going to be running these monthly, and a really good way just to get a good understanding of nutrition and how your nutrition can better balance out and optimize your health. And it would also be amazing to see you guys for one of those nutrition consultations that will be rolling out shortly as well. So really empowering you all to understand the importance and the power of diet and incredible foods and what to eat and what not to eat, and bringing everything back to basics for you and really simplifying it.
Awesome. I'll just flick the camera around to show you our beautiful view. If you're interested. Well, there we go.
So incredible. And our new clinic is beautiful and light and bright and airy.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.